Hey friends, welcome. I don't know what's going on with your day today, but whatever it is, I hope that your day is going well and that you are having a good day. Wherever you're listening to this, whatever's going on, I hope that you're having a good day. And if you're not, I hope that your day gets better.
You're listening to the Joe Martino Show, a podcast dealing with all things emotional, relational, and human nature. Joe is a licensed counselor in the state of Michigan, specializing in relationship therapy. He is also the author of the book, The Emotionally Secure Couple. All advice offered in this episode is offered for entertainment and educational purposes only. Enjoy the show.
I want to talk to you today about something that I've been thinking about for a long time. I've been chewing on this for a long time. I'm trying to get on TikTok. You should use it. Hey, I like the platform. I like being able to watch short videos. But I've been trying to get on it to use it to get the message, the word of my message out. And, I like to scroll it, and I scrolled across one that, man, it gutted me when I watched it. It hit me hard, and I watched it, and I want to play it for you today. If you're listening to this, I'm almost certain that you can listen to it. You're going to miss out on some things. We're going to try to put it into the video. So if you've not checked out my YouTube podcast yet, this might be a great time to start. We'll find out what happens when we put it in there. YouTube might take it down. I don't know. I don't know what the laws are, and I skipped all the days of law school. Before we go any further, I want to play this video for you.
Hey, what are you doing? I came out to check on you.
Huh?
What are you doing? Thought you were working.
I'm looking at this.
What is it?
It's wire. It's a spool of wire. And I'm almost out of it. Can you see the spool of wire?
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost out of it.
Okay.
And I've had this spool of wire for like 40 years. I bought it like this it's not a long time ago, but it's like 40 years of my life is in the wire that's gone. Does that make sense? This is what's left. Does that make sense?
Sorry to hear that, and I'm sad for you, but you're wearing your Jets hat, and I'm a little concerned right now that you're wearing your Jets hat. I thought that's why you were crying.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, so if you were able to watch that video, if not, look it up on TikTok. I'm not sure what you would search. When this guy talks, like, you can see the grief in his eyes. It is on his face. He is wearing it. He is literally bearing his soul to his wife. And she comes out, she's like, what's going on? And you can see it. And look, I talk to guys all the time about this. They're like, life just goes so fast. And part of it is, I think, especially Gen X, which I am a proud member of, we were kind of told that, like, hey, work hard and somehow it gets easier. And it doesn't. It actually gets harder. It typically gets more difficult. And there's a lot of guys that feel like they're running to the end of it. And what happens is you drop into this survival mode where you're just going, just one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And nobody talks about it because we've taken the sexism of years past and we've said, okay, well, you know what? Men were pretty sexist then. And so now how dare you talk about men's issues? Every time I do something on this, I get an email to that effect. How dare you talk about this? Shut up. Please shut up. Because you know how we talk about this? Because I'm just going to read some numbers to you. 36,551 men died in 2020 from suicide. 38,358 men died by suicide in 2021. 39,273 men died in 2022 by suicide. What happens when we don't talk about this stuff is we start to see more and more men dying. I did some deep research, and it turns out that men are as likely to be diagnosed with depression as women, but they don't go to talk about it. You know why? Because when they do, somebody says, oh, you're wearing your Jets hat. And I thought maybe that's why you were sad. What do you think happened to that guy's trust for his wife in that moment? Oh, Joe, she was just being funny. Maybe, but if that was reversed, we'd be setting the internet on fire. We'd be burning things down. We'd be mostly peaceful protesting. I'm tired of it, guys. I am. I'm just going to be really honest with you. I'm tired of it. There are guys who are grieving and we're not creating space for them to talk about it. We either have organizations that are all about just scream and holler, right? Football clubs, and they go, and then we wonder why men drink, because literally there's not a whole lot of safe places to talk about their emotions. I'm not condoning drinking. I want to be clear on that, but I can understand it. I can understand how they're like, man, what in the world am I going to talk about? to somebody. Because the thing of it is once they start talking, what happens? People make fun of it because we're not comfortable with it. People try to make it better with stupid, trite answers. People try to make it better with some sort of like stupid, well, it'll get better. How do you know it'll get better? Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll get worse. Maybe one day you'll wake up and your wire that you had for 40 years is gone. And you're like, what did I just do with the last 40 years of my life? That's what he's grieving in that video. How did 40 years go that fast? I guarantee you that's what he's grieving. He's wondering exactly how did 40 years go that fast? How did all those school drop-offs happen? How did all those games happen? How did all those birthdays happen? How did all those Christmas parties happen? How did all of those things happen? All of the times that he said, you know what, I want to do this, but I'm going to wait and I'm going to do this thing over here that needs done. I wonder how many of those I'll go do those someday things never happened for him. And yeah, I'm reading into it, but I got to tell you, I sit with men all the time who do exactly what this guy's doing. They're grieving how fast life went. They're grieving how fast life went. Because life goes fast for all of us, right? Like life just goes fast. Mom, dad, I get it. Single people, people without kids, life goes fast. But I'm talking about men today. I'm talking about the men that I meet with. Did you know that men are consistently 4 times more likely to die by suicide? 78 to 80% of suicide deaths are men. That's according to the CDC.gov. From 2000 to 2018, suicide rate climbed between 30 to 37%. So if you do a plus minus of 3, it could be as high as 40% in America. It became the nation's 11th leading cause of death. And men are disproportionately affected by that. And we need to recognize that. And we need to talk about it. And I'm telling you, listen to me, when a guy actually is sitting there and he's grieving, and I think this is the thing that upset me, because I really thought I was watching this video, and my TikTok algorithm is all over the place. Like, I will get guys singing hymns, and then I'll get 9 Inch Nails, and then I'll get something from the liberal left of politics, and then I'll get something from the MAGA side of politics, and then I'll get something about church, and then I'll get book talk. I've actually found some really good books, by the way, on TikTok. I found out about them on TikTok. But I thought I was watching this heartwarming video. You know one of the other trends that I'm on? My ADHD is a little high. I'm recording this video in a way, the podcast in a way that I've never done before. I'm seeing myself 3 times. It's really kind of messing with my ADHD. It's the end of a long work week. But you know what else trend I'm on? It's where people are, like, they put up pictures, we used to be all gold and now we're all indigo, or some song line like that. And it's about lost loved ones. And I kind of got sick of it. So I'm trying to mess that algorithm up. And I've been watching these super sweet videos, weddings, all of that stuff. And I thought that's what I was watching here. And this woman has an opportunity to have this moment with her husband. And she completely messes it up. And I understand that upsets people when I say this. I'm not sure why. Because if I was doing something and it was the guy who messed up and I said that, nobody cares. I promise you, this will go up Wednesday. I will have emails it'll go up Wednesday morning. I'll have emails before I leave the office Wednesday night, guaranteed. In fact, when this drops, I'll be doing I'll be leaving the next day for a men's conference in Nebraska where we're going to talk about issues like this. Here's something to think about. By the time this podcast drops, 1,300 men will have died across America by suicide this year. This year, 1,300 men, by the time this podcast drops, will have died. And I'm doing some numbers there. I'm taking the numbers that they predict for the year, and I'm dividing it by 3. And that's how many men will die by suicide. So what do we do about it? Well, one of the things we do about it is, I'm going to talk to women for a minute, or other people, other guys. When you have a friend that kind of just is like sitting there grieving, just shut up and sit down with them for a minute. And I'm reading some really interesting books on empathy right now. I'm not the guy who thinks that empathy wins the day. I'll be honest with you, I'm not. Empathy that doesn't help us walk next to the person and probably encourage them to walk when they want to quit is probably not a helpful thing. But it is a great starting point. It is a great spot to stop and sit and just grieve with them. Think about all the things that guy has had happen to him in the last 40 years. And if you're young, you're like, whatever, this is old people talk. I promise you, one day you're 18, you blink and you're 40. And this guy, I'm going to assume he's in his 60s, right, or 50s, because he's talking about having a spool of wire for 50 years or for 40 years. And so if he had that spool of wire for 40 years, I'm going to assume he got it in his 20s or his teens. Just grieve with them. Sit in the emotions with them. Just sit in the emotions with them. I'm telling you, that is an amazing gift that you can give your friends when you just sit in the emotions with them. But encourage them to move forward. Encourage them to grow. Encourage them to process that grief. Because what happens when we get stuck grieving? Well, then we don't grow either. But what happened here was he got shut down. So there's the do, sit in empathy with them. The don't is don't shut them down. Don't crack a joke. And look, I get it. I use humor to deflect. Don't crack a joke. It doesn't matter if you're trying to be funny. I'm telling you, watch that video and look at that guy's eyes. He's grieving, and it isn't about the doggone wire. It's about how fast life goes. So we want to avoid using trite answers, right? And you know, my religious friends do this. They say stupid things to people about, you know, well, like their Bible. I call it Bible Christianese. And look, I'm a Christian. I love God. I love the Bible. For a long time, I didn't talk a whole lot about that publicly because I know some of you don't care about that stuff. In fact, you've been so hurt by it that you have zero intention. You would not come to see me as a counselor if you knew that, and I want to be able to help you. But I'm hoping to invite people to the reality that we can disagree on faith, and I can still help you. But part of the reason there are people who don't want to come see me as a counselor if they found out that I have a personal faith is because people of faith have said stupid things to people that are hurting and grieving in the past. They have said dumb things to people who are hurting in the past. And we've gotten a reputation, and we need to change that by just sitting with people and listening to their grief. Because it's not always going to be about how fast life goes. It's not always going to be about the spool of wire that I bought 40 years ago and it was this big and now it's this small. Sometimes it's going to be about a lost son or a lost husband or a lost daughter or a lost wife. Sometimes it's going to be about a broken relationship that can't be mended. Sometimes it's going to be about a sexual assault. Sometimes it's going to be about really uncomfortable things. And part of this is, as a culture, we just want to worship a cult comfort. We just want the majority of our life to be comfortable. We just want the majority of what we do to be super comfortable, which is fine, but that doesn't actually move us to health. And it certainly doesn't create space for us to sit with people who are grieving. Because people who are grieving, people who are hurting, their life isn't comfortable. I tell people all the time, I will not lie to you. So when I'm in the therapy room with them, I'll say to them, they're like, this is really hard and I don't know what to do. And I said, well, I'm afraid that what you're actually saying is, I don't know what to do so that the pain goes away. And I'm afraid that I have bad news. I don't think there's anything you can do that will cause the pain to go away. And here's what that does. It builds trust between me and my clients because it's not easy for them to hear. Of course, that isn't easy to hear, but it's truth. And the problem with our trite answers, or when we try to crack a joke, well, you're wearing your Jets hat and I thought that's why you were sad, is we're minimizing and dismissing someone's pain. Just lean into it with them. There will be time to solve it. And I know that this is a legitimate complaint against modern psychology, that we ruminate too much. We think too much about the discomfort. Okay, fine. But just sit there and ruminate with them for a minute or two. Sit there and just lean into the pain. How different would that conversation have gone in this video if she had just looked at him and she had said, oh, yeah, isn't it something how fast life goes? How different would that have gone? And here's something else to consider. If she had just done that, like, I don't know, I'm reading a lot into this, but I wonder, does that woman complain that her husband doesn't talk to her much? Because I would struggle to want to talk to her about anything deep in my life after an interaction like that. And a lot of times when people are like, well, my husband doesn't want to talk to me, I will ask them, How safe are you? We've talked about that on this show before. If your friends don't talk to you about what's going on deep in their lives, the legitimate question is, how safe are you? Do you pursue them? Do you ask questions of them? And look, I've had to do it. My very good friend of mine, his son passed away 5 years ago. And I've had to reach out to him and be like, yo, I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? And then kind of tells me all about it. Are you safe? Because here's the thing, if you're not, you're missing out on incredible opportunities to help people around you. Because the most radical thing that I tell people when it comes to distress and sitting with people who are distressed is sometimes the best thing you can do is just say nothing. Just say nothing. Just sit there. Maybe reflect the emotion. But don't be afraid to sit there and say nothing. Just listen to them. And if they don't say anything, sit in the silence. Just sit in the silence with them. It's an amazing opportunity to build friendship. Just sit there and don't say anything. So, right, you can reflect the emotion. Don't try to downplay it. And don't be afraid to just sit in the silence. Listen, today's topic, kind of deep, can be upsetting for some people. If you're pondering suicide, please reach out to someone. If you live local, call my office, 616-481-3784. By the way, we are no longer Joe Martino Counseling. When this episode comes out, we will be Martino Health and Wellness. Talk more about that in the future. However, I do want you to still know our number, 616-481-3784. If you can't reach us or you're not local, feel free to reach out to 988 is the suicide hotline. Call it and someone there will help you. 24/7 access and support across America with that number, 988. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it with one of your friends. I would really appreciate that. It would help me and hopefully it would help them. Have a conversation. Talk to those you love about their emotions. Ask them, how well do you think we're doing engaging in our emotions? It's a hard conversation, but you'll benefit a lot from it. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please share with a friend. And hey, give us that rating in your podcast store. Until next time, change possible.